Okay, I think we might be live now. I'm going to start. I'm still trying to get that timing perfect. My name is Jane Frizzell, and these are the winter and spring 2025 Steinbrecht sessions, during which we are going line by line, precept upon precept, through the key chapter that starts on page 71, where Steinbrecht expounds on the horseman's adage, the old motto, ride your horse forward and set it straight. He did not coin that phrase. He believed in it. It's like, and God so loved the world. I mean, it's like, it doesn't apply only to German riding. Now, there are some little variations. For example, Colonel Podolsky in Vienna would say, set the horse straight and ride him forward. But these are the kind of things that we're not going to quibble about. Every legitimate riding school believed in ride your horse forward and set it straight. Avant, to the front, is how the French would say it. And you know, that's actually apropos to today. We're talking about to the front, back to front. We ride forward to the front. And this next paragraph, which is on page 74 that we're going to be dealing with, excuse me, there's like a hair. Oh, sorry, pardon me. How am I going to say this? The horses, so ride your horse forward and set it straight. There is something that comes of that when that is done properly, and that is the horses start to go uphill. They travel uphill from their croup to their withers. They travel uphill. It's not only that the pole is the highest point, it's that the body becomes uphill. And this is known as relative, Americans call it uphillness. The others call it relative elevation. The Germans call it die Aufrichtung. It is the uphillness in the body of the horse because of the load bearing of the hindquarters. That as soon as the hindquarters of the horse start to bear even a fraction of a gram more than the front end, we're not trying to make horses flat, level, horizontal. Remember, collection is that the hindquarters bear more weight than the forehand, not level weight. We're not trying to make horses flat, like a foot in each corner, or the big square idea everyone gets hung up on. No, load bearing behind. That load bearing behind is what causes the relative elevation of the forehand. So croup lowers by load bearing in the hindquarters. Withers is above croup relative to the lowering of the hindquarters. The hindquarters lowering comes first. Now, how does this apply to ride your horse forward and set it straight? I'm going to go back a little bit. What forward is, we have to remember, it's a two-feature idea. Number one is the horse has his own desire. I'm going to say them both and then break it down. Namely, the horse's own desire to advance the load. So that tells us that there must be a load in the first place, and that the horse has his own desire to advance it. Those are the two features that those two features must be occurring in order for us to say a horse is forward. His own desire to advance the load. So this load bearing thing is a big idea, and it's very overlooked. People are looking at the outlines of horses and they're looking at them ornamentally or cosmetically and not considering them in dynamic motion. And with physics in mind and what real riding is. So what he starts to talk about today in this section is how that the rider's educated seat contributes to this forward straight situation, which results in relative elevation, uphillness, or the Aufrichtung. The rider, I'll start reading his paragraph. The rider's seat must also, I say always, facilitate movement, and so facilitate the going and the straightening of the hindquarters. So my seat, my educated seat, I know, I can feel it if that horse is accepting the load and advancing it, or if he's shrewd and slightly shirking his load-bearing responsibility. Not only that, is literally the tissue of my seat can discern and supervise the tracks of the hind feet, that the right hind foot tracks into the footprint of the right front, and the left hind foot tracks into the footprint of the left front foot. Then I have, now that he's forward, he's tracking. Now I can adjust his spine relative to the line of travel so that his spine is directly covering the line of travel pull through dock. My seat literally does, my seat knows that. It discerns the goings on, and it informs my other body parts, especially my leg, how to continually improve that the horse is more forward, more straight, carrying more efficiently, carrying more directly straight. Okay. And not only, so my seat, my butt and the back of my thighs, that surface area is in contact with the saddler of the horse if I'm bareback. And that tissue, that surface area, is discerning this, and it is also actually weight. I am additional weight. That's why a couple times here he mentions the combined mass. I mean, really, we could say that the combined mass that the hindquarters ultimately take on is their own mass, because they have to advance themselves, the mass of the forehand, and the mass of the rider. Okay. Back to what he says. The rider's seat must always facilitate movement and straightening of the horse in these exercises, since by lowering the hindquarters and elevating the forehand, the rider attempts to obtain a horizontal orientation of the horse's spine. He must consider the vertical position of his own upper body to be the normal position. So this is that my ear and shoulder are plumb over my hip heel. And that is the normal position we want to be in as much as possible. That is plumb position. But when you're riding green and otherwise unsteady horses until they're made steady and put us into this seat, my seat is, besides being informed, it's also very adaptable. So I can feel when they're about to squirt and I can feel if a horse is going to stop carrying on the right side, and I can interrupt and go, no, my darling, you must not do that. And I do that with my adjustable and instantly adaptive seat. Okay. The vertical position, which is ear, shoulder, hip, heel, plumb, is the normal position. And that is also goes along with what Spanish riding school says, that the upper body must always remain over the base of support. By always remain, he means exactly remain. Okay. So here's what I was saying. However, the rider must deviate from this normal position in any and all directions whenever circumstances require it. So horse starts to rear, I go forward. Horse starts to buck, I sit up. Horse starts to, squirt one way, I load, blah, blah, blah. I can adjust. My seat is very adjustable. I have a half seat. I have a galloping position. and I can go back and forth very quickly. What would be the point of a half seat or a galloping position? Maybe the horse's back is weak. Maybe he's unfit. Maybe he's a baby. Maybe we're on like gnarly terrain and I want to let him use himself any way he needs to and not have the added problem of my seat directly on his back, but still allow him to benefit from the ballast of my soft weight dropping down evenly from my half seat. Because even if I go up in a half seat, I don't tilt my horses on the forehand. If anything, when I go in a half seat, my weight drops down even more pure down my plumb line because it's not being diffused by the surface area of the backs of my thighs and my butt. It just can drop. So even if a seat is in one of these adaptations, it still has a back to front mind. Okay. Okay, however, he must deviate from this normal position in any direction as soon as circumstances require it. And by as soon as, they mean in the same instant. He means in the same instant. He will lean forward to make it easier for reluctant horses to move forward, to soften hard shocks or bump, to protect softer, sensitive backs. In a way, we ask a horse that's maybe not strong enough to protect its kidneys. I might sit up and say, come on, get your back up here a little bit more high, to gently raise his back to protect his own kidneys. A rider can lean back. I don't recommend this. Very quickly, boom, punch them through. Sometimes if they are really needing that. And that could also be a lateral situation that might come way over, boom, punch them through. The major called that the judo chop. But I want to warn about it, putting his own weight emphatically on a tight back and inflexible hind legs. Boom, judo chop. And I'll just finish his paragraph. Finally, he will sit to one side or the other and thus increase the weight toward the right or the left to prevent a hind leg from squirting out like I was talking about, or to cause it to learn its own load-bearing responsibility. In these exercises, the rider's skill, his educated seat, his understanding of the anatomy, the dynamics of the going, my seat and the way I use it it has to help the horse. It has to explain to the horse. It has to help him learn to be a more forward, straight carrying horse, self-carrying. So, but I am not going to be just in a ramrod straight position all the time. To do that, I am very adjustable until my horse is educated enough to put me in that ideal plumb seat. I hope you see what I'm talking about. I hope you can sense what I'm talking about here. And I want to caution people with this paragraph, because he says he may have to lean back. You may have to lean off to one side and kick. You might have to, sometimes we have to ride with a certain emphasis, but he's very much speaking about moments here. He's not talking about, oh, ride that horse with a driving seat for the rest of its life. No, you know, there might be a time that I lean back and have to drive them with a very quick, surprising sort of shock effect, shock and awe. But if I did that well, I should not have to do it twice. And I certainly should not adopt it as a way of going, because it isn't. He's talking about facilitating the movement and the like, what's it, the horse is matriculating in his education, right? They call that when a student's going through the schooling process, he's matriculating. Sometimes the horses need certain things as they matriculate, but that doesn't mean that's how to do it. I hope that's really understandable, because it cuts both ways. I've seen this misunderstood both ways. There's people that then think that they need to adjust to the horse's needs, and they ride in one of these adaptive seats indefinitely. Then there's others that think that the absolute perfect textbook plumb position is the only way you can only be. But on a stiff, crooked horse, that's not possible. So it's known as the military seat because of its it is admirably adaptable. Let me just look at these notes here. Yeah. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about how the seat develops, protects, and even develops the horse's back. I'm just going to finish this little list right here and then come back to that. Okay. The seat must be able to feel and be educated. It's not instinct. This is not natural talent. This is a learned thing. This is trained feel. Trained feel. Colonel von Heydebreck in the epilogue talks about that the education of the rider and the educated seat is not the same as natural feel. The natural feel, if the seed of it is present, is made into the educated seat. Very few people, riders on this planet right now, have an actual educated seat. I don't know. I could probably name 100. Are there more than 500? I'm not sure there are. My guess would be between 100 and 500. Okay. And actually, I think that there's some working horsemen that do have a very correct, useful seat. But they might not know all these terms like die Aufrichtung. Okay. Today's session is on the section of 74, but I very much want all of you to realize how everything he's always talking about is always relating back to ride your horse forward and set it straight, and the discussions we had before this, such as understanding that the two requirements of straight are that the hind feet track into the front feet and that the spine becomes the line. Really dwell in what he's saying on pages 72 and 73 about the spine of the horse that houses the nervous system, the organ of sensation and animation. I mean, if that doesn't sell you on how important the development of the horse's back is, I don't know what will. The spine of the horse. Okay. Today's session goes straight to page 74, where Steinbrecht lays out how the rider's seat must facilitate movement and straightening, not as an ornament, but as an instrument. The spine of the horse, when trained correctly, orients horizontally to the travel line by lowering of the haunches and the relative elevation of the forehand, what Americans call uphillness, what the Germans call die Aufrichtung. Sommer and Vienna just call it decent riding. For this to happen, the rider's seat must be adjustable and instantly adaptive. Okay, so that none of what he says or that what we says ever contradicts another part of the education that you guys are participating in and taking on yourself. But let's talk. A lot of you guys are already really schooling the content of class 107, which is a class I have written out, but I have not edited the videos and put it on the platform for it to be an actual class. But a dozen of you are already well aware of how how a seat that has proper weight management, bun management, allows and brings the horse into a condition that he can start to find his back. I'm going to reference everyone, and I'll put it in the description, to the warm-up video, the warm-up article that expounds on the major's oval warm-up, which also has the baseline instruction in it: ride your horse forward and set it straight. So how does our seat start to cause a horse to find his back, then use his back, and finally come through his back? Well, I want you guys to imagine the spine of the horse and how the spine of the horse, there's forward momentum, and then the spine of the horse, dock through pole, is going to be spread out, arranged evenly, softly upon the line of travel. If the line of travel is a bend to the right, then the spine will take on that same exact shape. The spine becomes the shape of the line. If the horse is going upon a line that's curving off to the left this way, then the spine will take on that direction. The base of the spine will be anchored, and the momentum of the horse will be transmitting forward on a curving line through the back, through the spine. If the horse is on a straight line, the horse's spine from dock through pole is upon that line. Now, how does the rider's seat facilitate that? How does that start? He talks about the rider's skill. Well, I'm kind of giving away the story here. My soft seat that also discerns the goings on of the horse, because my seat is a sensory organ. My soft seat also acts as ballast upon the horse's hips, the top of his hindquarters, where the base of his spine goes through the hips and then out through the tail. But if we imagine das Kreuz, that intersection where the spine comes through the hips, the weight of my soft, steady seat anchors that. And when my horse feels, and I'm also encouraging all the time to accept the load on your coxofemoral joints one at a time, and let's make them more elastic and adjustable and strong, that you can decide exactly how much oomph are we going to have per gram. Horsey, we're getting these all developed. So, but overall, my seat, it's like, here's his hips. My seat is like holding them steady. So then he knows to follow his bit. I'm holding his little hindquarters steady as we go along, because he's just gently carrying them along in advance. He's not propelling so greatly that he unseats me and then collapses to his forehand. No, I'm sitting and we go to here and he's reaching forward and goes to here and he's reaching forward because he's following his bit, right? But can you now see how my seat has anchored the base of his spine and I'm encouraging him to follow his bit forward almost through my open seat. And that is how the horse starts to find his back, because a horse this is what also is sometimes mentioned as like longitudinal elasticizing. His spine is getting long. I'm anchoring it with my soft weight. He's following it along on first we go this way, then we take it, then we go to the left. Oh, those felt very symmetrical. Then we can go straight. But all the time, my seat is helping him. It's helping him find his back. I really hope that that was a cogent example of the rider's skill and my educated seat, my skillful, experienced, educated seat is better able to protect my horse's back and develop it. Oh, no Steinbrecht, spring vacation starts now. There's no Steinbrecht sessions next week and the following week. We will resume Steinbrecht session number 14 with the paragraph that begins, nevertheless. This is one of my favorite sections coming up. It's on vitamin S. Who knows what vitamin S is? Anyway, we will resume with this next paragraph on page 75 on the first Tuesday after Easter at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ride well.